Hey guys, I'm back for another video, and today I'm talking about Hytale again, and this is part 2 of my talk with my friend Warlord about the potential risks with networking and hacks in Hytale. So in this video, we talk about the different hacks that people could use, like what sort of stuff we would expect on day 1 or week 1, month 1, and we also talk about how the server mod syncing process will work. It's pretty scary stuff if things aren't handled correctly, but I have a feeling they will be. But anyway, it's some very interesting stuff, so here we go. One thing we should talk about is a lot of people are probably wondering, well, what's the point of preventing these kind of people from joining? What's the damage they could do? Like somebody that has 100 accounts and has some software in there ready to grief or hack on people. Like, what sort of things do you think we should expect in Hytale? I mean, we all know about the Minecraft hacks like B-Hop and Reach and Kill Aura and some of the weird ones that let you like fly and like ride a pig at 1,000,000 miles an hour and
packet fly, entity speed. One of my favorite ones is auto bucket. This one's a great one, actually, really handy on a lot of servers. If you have a water bucket in your inventory, it doesn't even have to be on your hotbar. And you fall, it automatically clutches. Favorite hack ever.
I bet there's some other ones that auto apply the best armor, probably.
Best tools. Auto armor is already a thing. There is an auto tool. I don't think people put too much effort into it. Auto tools tend to be kind of weird. But back to it, like day 1, there's not going to be a lot of hacks other than just people being probably derps. You're going to see some of the more intelligent people are going to be like tinkering around with their system and trying to manipulate the network between the client and the server. And you might start seeing stuff like that early on, like day 1 or week 1, let's call it.
Yeah.
But it'll take a couple of months, probably, maybe less, before you start getting like people that are really starting to decompile the client and injecting their own code into it.
Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, all the mods are going to be server-side, so we don't have to worry about hacks because all the mods are going to be downloaded to the client. But I'm sitting here like, well, there's always a way in. You can force change a client no matter what, and it's like, so there's only so much you can do to prevent that.
There are things that can be done. Verification of what client you're on. There are also ways to bypass it, as always, but I'm really curious to see how they harden their client, because they are smart enough to know that people are going to start ripping apart the code of the client and seeing what they can get away with.
Yeah,
that's more after the first month, probably. You're going to start seeing
it'll probably take some time to figure out a way to decompile the client and then figure out how the verification works and then a way to bypass it.
Yeah, reverse engineering work is not quick.
Yeah, they might go off of something like file size. So if it's like, if your client is designated version 1.0 and it's exactly 53.2 megabytes, then you're let in. But if the file size is different or the version is different, then you're like automatically synced or something. I don't know how they're gonna do it. I don't know if they would go off of file size, because I guess that can change with compression and things like that.
Yeah, you could spoof that, and also you could manipulate the compression of different parts of the code in order to hide yourself.
Yeah,
it would probably be some sort of cryptographic or hash function would be used.
Okay.
Which can be cumbersome and clunky to implement.
Yeah.
And still, I don't know. It's a little more out of my depth of field on how you'd verify that, but there are techniques for it. I know that for a fact.
Yeah.
Also, verifying the network traffic from the client to the server, because that's going to be probably your early hacks are going to be right along that pipeline.
Oh, and that's one of the most important things to secure, because the last thing we need is some person to let's say create some malicious code and then be able to force upload it to the server as a mod and then have it be synced with all the players on the server. That's bad news. If they're able to do that, you know.
Ooh, that would be bad, yeah.
That would be very bad.
Being able to push a mod that runs arbitrary code on all of the... that might be a problem.
Because from what I hear, there's a lot of communication between the client and the server, and there's files being exchanged. I mean, a good model to look off of to like check for what kind of hacks to expect, I would imagine, would lie in Gmod. Because this seems to be a very similar system where a server will require certain mods and they'll be auto-downloaded as you join. So I wonder if there's any mods for Gmod that are malicious and there's hacks and ways to, you know, steal people's data.
Interesting.
I would suggest anybody that's listening that knows, you know, more than we do, maybe that would be a place to investigate to see how Gary's mod has done it. Because I think it's going to be a very similar model.
I can see that being a very dangerous application if you're able to get into that.
I wonder what's going to happen if, say, considering server owners are given this much power to write their own mods and have them be downloaded client-side, how much freedom do we get as developers? Because if, let's say, there's a large server with, like a rat, like somebody that's in the staff team that, you know, by some backdoor was convinced or paid to write code that, say, spies on people, like some malware, some spyware, and then it would be presented as a mod and downloaded and run. Like, what are the limits on
miner?
Yeah, I mean, 2018 is not the best year for that, but I mean, maybe I'll have a resurgence.
Oh, people were just overly hyped. The bubble.
Unless you're talking about Ethereum, I heard that one had a nice spike.
I'm very familiar with all of them, like the major ones, and I do not like Ethereum.
Okay.
Because of reasons, that's a whole discussion. But the bubble is coming back down to insane levels.
I am a bit concerned, though, about the communication between the client and server. Like, what kind of file exchanges are possible? What can people spoof? What sort of dangers are there? So that's something that I think Hytale should really focus on, is prioritizing first what like one-way communication with actual file transfers, and or at least for code, and some way to like make it so that mods can be checked if they're malicious before they're installed and made on a public server. Because if it's JavaScript, I mean, you have a lot of freedom there.
Yeah. I know several different flavors of Windows antivirus is pretty active, but a lot of people, gamers in particular, hate it and bypass it and shut it off because it has a bad habit of just killing your performance because it's just constantly running in the background.
Or false flags preventing you from logging in altogether.
Yep.
I've had that happen with port forwarding. My own Minecraft servers, I've had to temporarily disable the firewall when I'm running. Not anymore. So anyone listening, not anymore. But back in the day, that used to be the way I did it. I had to turn off the firewall and then port forward and play Survival Island or whatever.
Yeah, which is still a pretty common practice. Like if everything's broken, nothing's connecting, you disable the firewall, disable the antivirus, and then figure out from there what you can, you know.
Yeah, I had a bad bout with AVG. It was flagging a lot of my connections as malicious. I also, on the topic of FTP, or not FTP, of port forwarding, I said this before we started recording, but somehow Hytale is going to get around the need to port forward.
Yeah, there's some trickery there. I want to know more about that.
I don't know how they're going to do that. Maybe they'll have auth servers or something where it like redirects connections, maybe?
I mean, they might be using a peer-to-peer kind of concept that allows you to not have to worry about port forwarding like that. But
I mean, if you think about it, right, you don't have to port forward something like Discord.
No.
Like, and we're communicating data right now in the form of a voice call, so maybe they can find a way. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think we're the most hip on networking to really understand the nuts and bolts of that.
I'm an object-oriented type of guy. I mean, I'm making games and.
Yeah, I'm a hardware kind of guy. I plug stuff in, unplug stuff, and yeah.
Yeah, but you've definitely been around the block more than I have in terms of the more scary stuff
Just,
online.
yeah, fun times. I do like to experiment with things. And
On 2B.
yes, good times. The basic model we should be looking at okay, day one, you're going to get some little minor things going on. About first month, you might start seeing some clients start popping up.
Yeah.
I think in the long term, if they manage to keep their client relatively hardened and update the clients frequently, because that's probably going to be a good model to really prevent the modded client, hack client devs as constantly changing around or updating the clients. Not
It'd be real fun. What if they obfuscate the code, but they use a different key each time? Each update, it's like the algorithm is run by a different seed, if you will, so it'll need a different de-encryption method each time. That's a thought. Maybe. I don't know if that's how that works.
You wouldn't need to go that far. Like, I know for a fact one of the popular paid clients that you see a lot on 2B, I'm not going to name it, is heavily obfuscated, and it's all Java. And to date, only one version has been successfully decompiled. But then that person that managed to decompile it threw a rat into it and then started to upload it freely to everybody. Good job. So it is possible to really heavily obfuscate Java to the point where it's very impractical to even try and reverse engineer it.
Yeah.
Impractical, not impossible. So they might really want to look into obfuscating the client, if at all possible. You might run into performance issues, but if it runs on that client well enough, I think they could probably pull it off.
Yeah, I don't even know what language they're using, to be honest. I know the modding, I don't know if you can call them mods or plugins. Probably plugins, I would imagine, is what you'd call it.
Yeah.
They're made in JavaScript, but I can guarantee the client is made from probably some derivative of C. Maybe a C#, maybe a C++. I doubt Java, because that's one of the biggest problems with Minecraft with performance is the fact that Java, compiles as it runs, right? That's part of what makes it Java. And it makes it very slow compared to, say, if you were to write in C++, which is why in the Windows 10 version, you can have like a 64 render distance and be pulling like 1,000 FPS on my machine. Like, compared to 32 compared to like 16 render distance with maybe max 300 in a Bed Wars map if I have my render distance all the way up. So it's a big difference. Just the programming language even. So I would imagine it's probably some form of C. I don't know.
I would hope so.
Yeah. And I hope that there is...
If they programmed it in Rust, that'd be great. I don't know if you're familiar with that one, but it's basically a re-envisioning of C.
Oh.
That's more secure, supposedly. Again, not much of a coder, but there's a lot of things with that. People are using it for... they're trying to rewrite Linux in Rust and be even more secure than Linux generally is. So,
okay. I personally hope that there's some object-oriented coding involved in the modding scene, because I'm not very good at JavaScript. I know it's a very popular thing in Unity. I do hope that there is some C# in there, like being able to make your own like large projects that you could then, for example, interface with the server maybe with JavaScript. I don't know how that's gonna work.
That could be neat.
Because I did remember, I asked Simon in DMs, I was like, so how exactly does object-oriented anything work if it's in JavaScript? And he said that the interaction between mods and plugins and the servers will be announced soon. So he implied that mods and plugins might be separate? Maybe? So maybe there is like a distinct difference between scripting and coding a mod? Who knows? They might be the same thing, though. I have no idea. He was being very vague, and I think that was on purpose because they might not even know yet, like, what they're going to give to us.
Yeah, I'm sure they have their lots of different working projects that they could probably go with many flavors of code.
I predict if there is a difference between scripting and modding, I predict one of the first things to come up is going to be need-based. So if, for example, the game has microtransactions for cosmetics, I bet you there will be private servers that have mods on it that let you choose any cosmetic you want.
Yeah.
And it will just, I mean, that's an obvious one and probably extremely easy to do. So that would probably be one of the first month type of things if that came out. It'd be, of course, very much need-based. So if there's some limitation, if there's something that's blocked off, it'd probably be unlocked through some mod. Probably. So that's it for part 2, guys. As you guys can tell, I am a dedicated developer of all sorts of software, and as much as I like to have the freedom to do what I like when writing software, I think at least with Hytale, there need to be at least some limitations because, of course, we don't want somebody coding a Bitcoin miner and then having it sync across all of its players on a Hytale server. That would be very bad. But I don't think that will happen. I'm excited to see how Hytale combats this problem. And anyway, if you haven't seen part 1, we talk about the potential of preventing people with VPNs from having like 100 accounts and logging in with hacks over and over again. And in part 3, which is the next video, we talk about more hacks that players could potentially use. We talk about some of the current stuff in Minecraft, some of the more scary hacks. And we also bring up the possibility that some of these hacks could be called utilities and maybe be added to the base game for use by staff. So it's very interesting stuff. I would highly recommend it. It's in the top right hand corner if you would like to see it. Well, if it's uploaded anyways. If it's not, then there'll be another video in place of it. Anyway, that's it. So, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later.